Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's Wednesday, the 14th of July. This is the Daily Factor. My name is PATEL, and I'll be in your company for the next 50 minutes. Well, it's not been a great time, not just as a South African, but for the country as a whole. We've seen the looting happening. We've seen the destruction of property. We've seen businesses that have been built over a period of time now just gone in a matter of minutes. And this is the reason why for the Daily Factor this week we are going to be focusing on what is currently happening in South Africa, just trying to get different voices to how we can find a way to resolve the problem. Unfortunately, we're not finding a resolution from government at this moment because it seems as if so many of our politicians are out of touch with what is happening on the ground. We would generally have sport, markets, community news. Unfortunately, this is not going to be the case this week because we are going to be dedicating most of our time to discussing what is happening right now in South Africa. So let me bring in my three guests. I have Corinda. She's the Managing Director for BCI Security. I have SUMAYYA MOHAMMED. She's an attorney at law and a social activist. And I have Dr. REZA Patel. He's the PRO for the Gauteng Provincial Community Police Board and the head of Civilian Crime Intelligence Network. To everybody, good afternoon to you. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Dr. Patel, I'm going to start off with you. Community policing, this has been a huge, how would we say, sight on currently what is happening over the last few days. Just describe for us the importance that community policing has helped during this time where it seems police or even the SANDF cannot be in those certain areas.
First line of defense. I think that's the strongest way to actually put it. If you look at Gauteng with 142 police stations, and if you look at the number of people that were deployed from CPFs over the past 5 days, repelling this nonsense that's going on, managing it, ensuring that our people are safer and so on, we'd say that you know, when they talk about the fine line between anarchy and safety and security, that CPF brought the fine line. They were the fine line together with their partnerships. So when I say together with the partnerships, you must remember a person cannot work alone. You don't work in silos. So there are relationship partners in everything that we do, such as security companies, other groupings that have come in to assist, etc. So we have repelled that kind of issue very successfully in areas where they may have overwhelmed us for us. But I would imagine that if it were not for CPFs, in Gauteng, for example, this issue would have flared beyond the levels that you've actually seen. And yes, it was very dramatic in KZN. It's horrible. Lives were lost. But I think we would have seen a far worse off scenario had it not been for CPF.
Corinda, I want to bring you into the conversation. I know that you are the Managing Director for BCI Security and private security companies and their role with regards to what is happening at this moment, because one may say, well, it's the SAPS or the SANDF that need to go ahead and take control of the situation. But just explain to us the role for private security companies, and especially areas where these looters may just decide, you know what, we're going to take a chance and go and attack homes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for putting us on the show. Yes, absolutely. Security is a major role in this whole scenario. I think it's protecting our clients as well and our communities, and it's unbelievable how the communities actually started joining the security forces and start creating groups. So no longer it's more security companies anymore. It's now touching home. So community is joining security companies to stand together and make sure that these people are not coming into our towns. Now, luckily here for the West Rand, we based more in the West Rand, and we've got no situation currently that's running here. And being part of a group like the CCIN group, it helps a lot because we get so many fake information, and to verify through Dr. REZA Patel and the group makes it much more easier and keep the people calm this side.
Yeah, we're going to touch on the fake news and just the importance of trying to really make sure that you don't have a knee-jerk reaction to that. We are going to get to it. I'm going to bring in Sumaya into the conversation. Sumaya, I know that you're an attorney at law, and there's so many legal proceedings with regards to currently what's happening. But the first thing that comes to mind when you see what is happening, it's the simple, the obvious thing that does come to mind is that this is truly law being broken at the highest level, isn't it?
Yes, undoubtedly so. Although our constitution is very wide and we do have the right to protest is governed by Section 17 of the Constitution, our freedom of expression is constitutionalized, etc. This is a clear, outright disregard for the constitutional principle, for the right to protest peacefully. We have seen clear, contraventions of the Illegal Gatherings Act, as well as the Dangerous Weapons Act. All these acts play into our right to protest and our right to gather. So yes, it appears that the violence is perpetuated, or the causes behind such violence are perpetuated by the current circumstances faced by South Africans, who are clearly desperate, and then I believe there's political opportunists taking advantage of, and criminal elements taking advantage of the situation.
Dr. Patel, I want to bring you back in. Corinda made a very important point, the fake news that generally does come out. So what happens is you'll find a video, it may even be from 2 years ago, when of course there was xenophobic attacks that was happening right here in South Africa, and people will say, hey, you know what, this is happening wherever it is in these parts of the country. So the role that, for example, Crime Intelligence Network has to play in making sure that one can decipher that it's either not fake or it is fake.
I think that if you look at what we've been doing over the past 5 days, for us, we've actually been through our Twitter accounts, through our platforms. We've been filtering all of this before it was going out. And when we put something out, it is indeed what it is. It's not something that's make-believe or fake. And at the moment, we're busy killing these fires because if you look at our protest group that we have for CCI, and there's information coming in that this particular Checkers is being robbed, that Cambridge store is being overwhelmed, that is being overrun, etc. And our people are there almost immediately, or they contact their sources immediately to check, and within seconds, at the most within minutes, we know that it's not true. So before it can go out, we're verifying. And then we're pushing it out, and we're encouraging communities. In other radio shows that I've done and so on over the past few days for us, I've been telling people not to put out fake news, to verify, to ensure. I mean, I had, for example, in Benoni at one of the malls here, there was this overwhelming cry and shout and an alarm that went out that there's protesters and they're overwhelming the place, etc. The police went there, the sector managers. I was there a few minutes later. And when we get there, we find that it's absolute rubbish. The people are fabricating information because of the paranoia. But then we got to look at it in circumstance. If you're in a mall and everybody starts shouting and there's suddenly a hype, and you're already at a nerve's end in terms of knowing about this looting and so on, what's your mind telling you that's happening? It's telling you there's drama going on there. So you then automatically put a shout out to people saying there's drama, and before you know it, that little message that you put out has gone to tens of thousands of people. That's the power of social media. So we should actually avoid that. But what we're doing now is we quickly picking up issues, we're contacting sources, we're killing the fires in our area, we're putting out notices to say, this is not true, that's incorrect, and our collective footprint of the CCIN is helping our partnerships to be able to go back very quickly and say there's no such thing. And that's actually helping the community there. So remember, there's anarchists at the moment that want to succeed with their little plan of bringing the country to its knees fully. We must not allow that to happen. They are busy propagating various videos. I think you've seen the clown with the little false face that talks about what they're going to do and how they're going to achieve, what they're going to achieve, etc. What absolute rubbish is community? What Corinda said was absolutely true. Corinda said communities are coming together for us. And if communities can come together, verify information, qualify it before they can put it out, you'll find that there'll be less of this negative of fake news going out. Fake news is hurtful, it's harming, it's damaging. We need it to stop.
Corinda, and just as Dr. Patel is mentioning, you know, you have seen these, as you mentioned, the clown faces, it has the mask from V for Vendetta. This is concerning, isn't it? Because as a private security company, you get this alert. A lot of private security companies that, of course, do works in various shopping centers or any places where there is economic activity, and they arrive there and they find that there is nothing happening. This happens maybe 4 or 5 times. For the 5th time, it is happening, and all of a sudden you just feel there's a sense of frustration that comes to the work that these security companies do. So just describe for us how vigilant and not knee-jerked does security companies have to be in order to make sure that when there is a cause for concern, it is done in the right way.
Right, so it's very important. BCI Security's got a very, very close relationship with our councillors all over where we do work. So the councillors at this stage has got their own WhatsApp groups with their communities. So as soon as something happens, they relate to their councillors, and the councillors immediately then post something to us and ask us, is this true or not true? If Dr. Reza Patel can confirm with us yesterday, I think Riaz from the CPF Florida went about 6 times back to ShopRite Checkers in Delray, because there was rumors there was a small little tuk-tuk car that was fire, but it was just a small little fire. But like Doc said, somebody's driving past and then they see this fire, and then immediately it's related to the riot situation, and it's not true. We actually had a joke yesterday and asked Riaz to put up an office for him there, because, you know, the same message repeated from different, and you can't just guard down, you have to go check, because in seconds, anything can change.
Correct.
Yeah, no, definitely. Sumaya, we've just got a few minutes to give you to wrap up the first segment of our discussion. Sumaya, as somebody who, you know, who is an expert in law, social media and fake news, this is detrimental, isn't it? And we know part of the Constitution, there is a crime that is punishable with regards to the flow of that. So how important is it that just the normal average Joe on the street has the knowledge and the wisdom and the education to know what's the difference between right and wrong?
Look, it's very important to sway or stem the spread of misinformation. However, our freedom of expression is a constitutional right. And this discussion goes back to the government's regulations regarding the propaganda of fake news they enacted last year. We were then, NGOs have been crying and saying that these regulations need to be amended. When the regulations issued in terms of Section 27.2 of the Disaster Management Act are very they are found by human rights groups to be not consistent with international standards. So what we're entering into is a discussion that is a very fine line. Yes, there's a need for the control of information, but however, giving that control or that power to government to consider what can be labeled as fake news or propaganda is a considerably dicey road to play. However, I do agree that in this context, fake news and unverified news, I think that as citizens, we each need to take responsibility, make sure that the stuff we disseminate is correct, accurate, because it is the cause of the looting and the spreading of such violent unrest.
Well, we'll be back after the break to continue this discussion. Our topic today on the Daily Fact, we're changing things here. It's the role of communities, security companies, and so much more as we are in one of the deepest moments of our democratic South Africa. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to the Daily Fact. We're discussing the role of communities, security companies, and other major role players during this difficult time that you are in right here in South Africa. Dr. Patel, let me come to you. We see what's currently happening. This isn't some random Joe of the street that's saying, hey, listen, today I woke up and I want to go ahead and just loot a shop. This is coordinated, isn't it? And how does, community and its policing forums now play that role when they are tasked to come in? Because we see, of course, the police and the SANDF being called in to go to these major centers in South Africa. But when it comes to policing and the community's role in it, how important is it to make sure that they are strategic enough to deal with these guys? Because these guys seem as if they have been given instructions by I don't know who to go ahead and create this anarchy.
Okay, yes, the issue about coordinated actions is correct at the offset. So if we look at the initial few days, definitely, I would agree with you that that is a coordinated group of people. They knew what they were doing. They had a task. They implemented their task. They went in, they executed. They sowed the fear. They sowed a little bit of anarchy. They made a bit of destruction. But what's happened now is that everyone else who's anyone else who saw that you can go and do this and there's no recourse to your criminal action has now suddenly woken up and they all want to be there. If you literally see the type of people that are physically carrying out the looting, it is not people that are from affluent communities. It is the people from the socio-economically compromised communities that are there. But amongst them, if you look at the vehicles that are parked at the sides of each road, you look at that and you say, what? A Jaguar, and the guys are looting. A Land Rover, and they're looting. A Hilux Bucky, and they're looting. So you get an impression that every man and his dog has now jumped on this bandwagon to go and loot. Unfortunately, what's happening is that they've come in at the tail end of the initial part. So coordinated, yes, and then the current, it's not people that are part of that band. That band has executed their task. They're gone. Perhaps they are sleeper cells somewhere, and perhaps there are people that are going to create more mayhem. But now it's all the little ones that saw the opportunity that I can go and steal a couple of loaves of bread and a few packets of sugar and odds and sods. The role of the CPFs in all of this, in terms of how to embed themselves, they are meant to be embedded. That's what a CPF is. You elect it from your community, by your community. So it's already there. It's a structure that's there already. That's why we're having so much of success in most of the areas. You'll find that the areas where there is little success is the actual area where massive crowds have gone and invaded the physical warehouse or the actual mall. And there you'll find that even though the intelligence was moving through, there was not enough in terms of the policing or safety or security structures to be able to execute a repulsion of this grouping. So I think the CPFs are well embedded. We just need to grow larger in numbers. And I think that our intelligence information is quite strong, because if you find that all our people are in the streets, they've been there for several days, and they're gathering info, they're out there gathering intel, passing it on to our partnerships, the policing partnerships, and you'll find that they're working in coordination with partnerships like security companies. And that's a very positive thing. And you'll find the other part of community has now woken up. You know, the couch potatoes, the ones that used to just hang around the house or had attitudes about not being involved, they realized the dire strait that we're in for us. And they're now involved. In actual fact, I must just tell you, in the local area, we've received probably in excess of several hundred applications to join the CPF in the past 2 to 3 days. Unprecedented. And people want to get involved, and I encourage them to do that. You must remember, you can belong to any sort of collective organized group, and I always advise that people should get involved in groupings, organized groupings, lawful groupings, and so on. But there's only one statutory body. In other words, statutory means by legislation, by law, from the Constitution, by government gazette, there's only one statutory body through which people can operate in order to have a relationship with the police on a collective basis for and to and from the community, and that's a community police forum. Anything else can be accommodated, and you must hear the word that I'm using, accommodated, and it will be executed on an as and when basis, whereas with the CPF, it has to be executed because it's part of the relationship, so it's an instant. So how embedded? Very embedded. How much more? There is no limit to growth for us.
Yeah, and of course, the one thing to try and do is stop mob violence and vigilantism. That's the two aspects that you want to keep away from, especially during this time. Corinda, I want to bring you in. We know that private security companies do not have the mandate as per the Constitution to go ahead and arrest these criminals, and we must say that they are criminals for what they are doing at this moment. That is the job of the South African Police Service or the different Metro Police departments, or even maybe the SANDF. So Corinda, the role now for private security companies, and just how do they play the balancing act in, first of all, helping communities during this time, and helping helping economic centers to make sure that they don't get heavily affected by these looters, but also making sure that there is no heavy hand in prosecution or arrest of these looters?
I'm actually going to bring in Arno Dorfling now here.
So the role of the security, as you mentioned, we do not have the mandate as per the police or the defense force like that. But what we can do is we've got a lot of manpower, a lot of different companies working together. The last couple of days, the one thing that we've seen on a lot of the groups, when the officers are deployed to certain volatile situations, they get there, like the local police van get there, there's 2 members or 3 members in the vehicle. When they get to the situation, the crowd is, we've heard, a couple of thousand. So the members are outnumbered. So from a security point of view, what we can do is we can support the police in a role of backup. As you know, if 2 police officers get out at the scene, it's not going to scare the people away. But when security companies arrive there in hordes, and that's what we do, because we work together. It's not only just one company. As Corinda mentioned earlier, there's a lot of companies that's working together. When the guys go out to these scenes, they arrive in numbers. So all of a sudden, you've now gone from 1 police vehicle with 2 officers, and now it's turned out to there's 20 security vehicles and there's about 100 security officers. The guys are, most of the time, they are armed there. So now we can handle the situation. So from a security point of view, we're always going to be there for a backup. And also the one thing we must remember in a situation like that, although the mandate is not that a security officer or security personnel can arrest people, if we're in the presence of a police officer and a police officer requests assistance to apprehend or to arrest whatever, we can then do that because that is an instruction from a police officer. So we definitely work hand in hand with that. And just also, I think from the security point of view, a lot of the clients, a lot of people are going to approach the security company first before they go and ask the police officers, this information, is it correct, is it not correct? And as we mentioned, the other thing that we try and do is we try and avoid having a lot of false information going around. So people would approach us and then we can calm people down, because I think the other problem is at the moment is people are scared. They don't have the information that we've got from all the groups and things like that. So they would then get the information from us, so we can also just try and calm them down, because I think that's the problem now. People hear something, it's fake news, and then all of a sudden there's panic, because the one person would send it off to friends and family, and all of a sudden, like Doc mentioned earlier, in a matter of minutes, there's 10,000 people that see that message. So I think from our side, we also try and just calm down the community, because they ask us all the time, is this news fake or not? So most of the time, like Doc mentioned, we verify all the information, and mostly by the time that we get asked about something, we already know that it is fake. And we can calm the people down and tell them, look, this is not the situation, everything is calm. And that's also the other thing that we do. A lot of the security companies go out there on all the groups. We do reporting every 15, 20 minutes. So keeping the community informed about what is happening in the area. And I think that also helps so that the people are going to in a state of panic.
Sumaya, I want to take the conversation to you, and I want to get into your legal mind. There's two law enforcement agencies that are busy as we speak. The one is definitely the Hawks, and the other is the National Prosecuting Authority. Just take us through the work they're going to have to do right now, especially in terms of the prosecutings of these criminals.
Yes, I read statements today that the NPA has been instructed to oppose bail. However, our legal system doesn't work like that. Individuals or every person standing in the dock for these crimes will be judged by the magistrate in terms of their personal circumstances, and the courts already have a set of guiding guiding principles they look at when they look at things like bail, etc. However, if the magistrates in areas where damages have been done are harder on looters, I think that will set an example. The legislation does exist for us to be harsh with punishment. However, it's a question of precedent being set in this country in terms of, making the fines, making it harder for people to commit such crime. Another aspect for us is it worries me how loosely and lightly people are calling for a state of emergency to be called in this country. Now, the Constitution is very specific in terms of what circumstances the country can declare a state of emergency, and such declaration of a state of emergency will result in a huge violation of the Bill of Rights and the constitutional rights. I think currently we have the legislation, and we have with the reinforcement of CPF bodies and active citizens, we do have the means to control the current volatility within the confines of the law without having to resort to an extraordinary measure of declaring it a state of emergency. I think it's just a question of getting the perpetrators in the dock and setting an example one by one.
Well, we'll be back after the break to continue this conversation with regards to the current situation in South Africa, talking it from a communities, a security perspective, and of course the role of so many other stakeholders in a very dark time in our country. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to the Daily Effect. I'm still in conversation with Dr. REZA Patel, SUMAYYA, WADEE, MOHAMMED, and Corinda. Dr. Patel, I want to come to you. Let's just put ourselves in the shoes of so many people who have really, really suffered during this last few weeks. You see the pictures of burnt down shopping centers, businesses that have taken so many years to build. And it really is something that hits you hard that all of this has now just crippled the economy in one which was starting to grow, especially during a time in a pandemic, isn't it, Dr. Patel?
Absolutely, absolutely. Total, absolute negative. We could not afford this at the time. We cannot afford this. This is a huge, huge negative for us as a country, as a people. And I think that for us to be able to rise from this, it's going to take not just an effort, it's a mammoth task for us to actually rise out of these ashes. Many a home's going to be destroyed from this. Many a business will become extinct from this. Many an entity is going to close down from this. But moreover, if we go back to it, the unemployment rate's going to shoot through the sky because of the retail industry, the wholesale industry, the logistical industry, everything that's linked to what the protests have been harming have gone and done. Moreover, investors that would have thought about South Africa and seen the indexes rising and got excited by a slightly higher profit return from South Africa are now looking at us as though we are an abyss in terms of loss, where if they put anything in it, it will never come back, that they don't want their investments burnt, they don't want losses, so they will go elsewhere. And there are many other places that they can go where they can get a smaller return, where there isn't this kind of negative which borders on anarchy.
Corinda, I want to bring the same question that I asked Dr. Patel to you. This is a sad situation, isn't it? For an economy, we were just starting. I know it's the third wave of the COVID-19. I know that there are tighter restrictions, but slowly there was something positive happening with our economy. We've taken 10 steps forward, but haven't we not taken 100 steps back?
Oh, yeah.
You're absolutely 100% correct there. We're actually sitting in a COVID situation, and that is a tsunami coming through to us because these people are actually loitering in the areas, and they don't take precaution of the COVID that's also in our country currently. And so as soon as we're going to calm the situation, we're going to heap up again for the COVID situation.
Does Aman wanted to say something? Aman?
I don't know.
I know.
Yeah, so if I can just say, this is bad for South Africa. This is totally bad. It's exactly what you said. We were 10 steps forward and now we're 100 steps back. And I don't know if you watched the TV yesterday as well, where now, like you said in the beginning of the show, it's now not anymore Zuma must free Zuma. This is criminal. This is totally criminal. Yesterday there was a guy, he stole a lot of TVs, and they questioned him, why are you taking this? What is the reason? He said, well, I don't have a job. And it's the first time in my life I'm feeling free that I can take everything for free. So these people are not educated. They blame the old South Africa for the current situation. And it's going to become a big problem because it's a big job loss. So currently we're sitting with Durban, that's got so many factories burned, Germiston, Benoni, and all those places. We on the West Rand are very fortunate. We're very, very fortunate. We're very active here. And I think because we've got a lot of foreigners in our areas, this side, there's not a lot of looting happening currently here. There is rumors that it's coming to us, so we're standing ready. That's why I said to you in the beginning, community is actually starting to come along. People are standing ready for what's coming to us, and it's gonna do the harm to the
other big problem that a lot of people, is not thinking about is we're in level 4 of lockdown now. Things are going very bad with regards to the COVID situation in the country. Now you've got a situation where most of us, people are encouraged, if you can, work from home, which a lot of people are doing, because you can see in the day during peak hour traffic and stuff, the cars are not as much as they used to be. So there's a lot of people that try and adhere to that, to try and work from home. Now we've got a situation, a couple of evenings ago, one of the local shopping centers in Cosmo City, the guys were looting there. So they were talking about thousands of people there. They were talking about 2,000 people more or less that was looting there. So you've got a situation now where after curfew, we're supposed to try and stop people from interacting with other people. Now you've got a group of 2,000 people. Now we must also think now the security officers, the EMS personnel, the defense force, the police guys that respond to that. They've also got they try and avoid getting in contact with people like that. They don't want to go and do that, but now they are forced because of the situation. So at the end of the day, the COVID thing is also going to, I think personally in the Gauteng area, as well as down in KZN, just with all the looting going on and the contact there that was received by the EMS personnel, the security personnel, it's just going to send the statistics of the COVID a lot higher than it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and to that, Sumaya, we're getting high cases, and it's not going to get lower anytime soon. We've got these criminals, and they're coming in their hundreds or even their thousands after the curfew time. And they're not just going ahead and stealing potential appliances or anything of value. I mean, we just saw the other night, while President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking, they're breaking into a blood bank. Yes, a blood bank. And I'm just thinking to myself, if this could ever be a script for a horror movie, this is it right here.
Yes, definitely for us. I think that what this does is highlight the already existent problems in the system. I think if the events of the last few days have not forced our government to pull up their socks regarding service delivery, rooting out corruption, and sort of fixing inequality and creating jobs, we're in real trouble. We're in danger of actually seeing this happen again at a larger scale. I think that the citizens will be more buoyed or more confident if they start seeing real prosecutions of high-ranking political political leaders who have been guilty of the corruption and the looting of this country over the past 27 years. So I think that there has to be a change. If there isn't, God help us all, I think that this has highlighted for me in regard to the crime response sector that we work with Dr. REZA PATEL in the Crime Intelligence Network in, is that our South African police systems need more money. They cannot keep cutting budgets and expecting the police to do the job. Police are basically being held up by community activists and by the CPF structures around them. They need to clean up the mess around that, and we need to see some real prosecutions in the NPA, real sort of high-ranking people, so that this culture of corruption turns and the culture of lawlessness turns, and we can get back, hopefully, confidence in our judiciary and the systems.
Yeah. We got just one final question for each of you. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Patel. We don't know how worse the situation is going to get. I know off air you told me that there are a few areas where it has been subsided, but we don't know what's going to happen in the next few days. How now do community police and its role, the SAPS and the SANDF now deal with the situation should it really either re-emerge or get worse than what it is right now?
This is the time for us where we have to increase our ante. In other words, whatever vigilance we have, whatever abilities and capabilities we have, we must deploy all of it now. We got to kill it. You know, when they say kill it, you kill it. You go looking for the source of the problem. You find the issues. You actually then resolve it by getting the police involved. That kills the problem. So we cannot pussyfoot around issues where we see crowds of people or we hear of somebody making a plan. We must start reporting these criminals now. If you hear of somebody planning to do something, report them. If you hear of anyone that's talking a talk in the same field, report them. Don't even hesitate. Say, I heard this. If somebody tells you, you know what, so-and-so is planning, give it to crime intelligence. Don't hesitate. Call the 0800 10111 number, that toll-free crime line number, or call 10111 inform. Let the CPFs know. Give the information to your security companies. Give it to somebody. Let them take it up the echelons to give it to crime intelligence to look into. It's not our function to look into. It's their function to look into. But now is the time for communities to remain hard and fast in terms of where they are. Dig in. Stand your ground. Do not move from where you are. We will not tolerate these fellows coming into our area. I paid for my house, for us. I paid for my existence. Mine belongs to me. You will not have it. And you will not compromise my civilian type of life, where I live in civil society, where we go to shopping malls, centers, shops, where our commodities are purchased from. You will not compromise that. Those are conveniences for us. They have brought it to that place so that we don't have to go to a farm. We don't have to physically go to a dairy. We don't have to physically go into a place and go and slaughter a cow and then take pieces of it for ourselves. They've made it a convenience for us. We've got to protect those things. But having said that, the warning is, which is important, once those elements dry up as a source for these looters, where do you think these looters are going to turn their focus to for us? They're going to turn it to your homes, your suburbs. So we must be resilient. We must actually kick back on this in the biggest possible way. Don't even hesitate. Communities rally. Communities get together. Communities join your CPFs. Get involved. Do your neighborhood watch thing. Get out there and do your block watch thing. Do whatever you're doing, but get organized. Do it now. Because we are also faced with a second phase negative. The second phase negative is our food security crisis that we are presented with. You must understand that with all of the trucks being burnt on the N3 and all the other places, deliveries couldn't be made the way they were meant to. Logistics couldn't move the way they were meant to. And this is already now ongoing for quite some time. And now recently we've had these looting things. Nothing moved. Everything stood still. How long do you think it's going to take to fill shelves, to fill stores, to fill wholesalers, to fill mass marketplaces, to fill people's shelves with things? It's going to take forever. I mean, the refinery is closing down. Where do you have a force majeure like how they've closed down the refineries? I've never heard of it in my existence as a South African citizen. They only ever do that when they're doing a massive overhaul of a refinery. They don't ever shut it down because of fears. They've done that now in SAPREF in KZN. We cannot afford to be held to ransom in our existence for us. So the way forward in terms of us is we must be resilient, grow a thick skin, stand up, take your place.
I want to bring that same question to you, Corinda, and then SUMAYYA to wrap it up.
Right. Thank you very much. I was thinking of something now. Just a little bit more than a year back, when COVID hit South Africa, our security companies, CPFs, police, and everybody actually did so much for these communities where already they had no food. And we did a lot of support to them and drives to take food to these people. So it's a concern for us what is coming to us now, because remember, these people live actually the closest places to their homes, and those places are destroyed now. And as Doc said now, the next thing is they're going to start getting hungry. They will come into town to start looting this side. So it is a concern for us in certain neighborhoods that if the food is finished that side, where are they coming next? And like Doc said as well, it's now time to stand together, and not as security, not as police, not as CPF, but South Africa needs to stand together now and support each other and show that we can stand together. And I think actually that is what's happening, as we can see with the taxi organizations, because remember, the taxis are standing still now, so they don't earn money because the people can't travel. So taxis are actually starting putting up barriers on townships and say, you're not going to come in here and loot our community. You're not going to take our stuff. So I think from everybody now, we get a different approach of standing together.
SUMAYYA, to you.
Yes. Look, I believe that now is the time. From the ashes, wonderful citizens will rise. If you look at young Nhlanhla Lux or Nhlanhla Mohale, 28-year-old man that took it upon himself to defend Maponya Mon last night. If you look at the Kasi Brothers, which is a informal community structure in Attridgeville, they've stood up and said, we're taking back our community. So I think that this is an opportunity for good, law-abiding, honest citizens to stand up in their numbers, because, the way governments work, the power is with the people. So it can be done and change can be brought. We can force our government to listen to the socioeconomic challenges faced by our people and to actually be accountable for the positions they're in if we work within the confines of the law. And I think this is an opportunity for communities to look past race and to look past power dynamics and work together to protect, because it's a sad day if we were to just be divided or be used by these political and criminal elements who claim now race and who use the justification of the Zuma court case and his fight against the commission. I think that it's just everyone needs to abide by the law. Everybody needs to work together and just simply be kind.
Yeah, and I think that's all that we need to do. Be kind, be vigilant, just hope for a better South Africa. Doc Patel, Sumaya, Corinda, I'd like to say thank you so much for making the time for us. You've been wonderful guests. Please do keep safe and do be vigilant, and just hopefully we'll be able to speak to you guys again at some time.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for us.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Dr. REZA PATEL, PRO for the Gauteng Provincial Community Police Board, head and the head of the Civilian Crime Intelligence Network, SUMAYYA WADEE MOHAMMED, attorney at law and social activist, and Corinda Lutz, the Managing Director for BCI Security. Well, coming up after the break, how we would start the show with our newspapers and COVID stats. That'll be up next. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to the Daily Factor. Well, let's give you those COVID-19 statistics, and we start from a nationwide perspective. And South Africa recorded 12,537 new COVID cases and unfortunately 633 deaths, bringing the official death total to 65,143. Now, according to the NICD, this country at this moment has recorded 2,219,316 new laboratory confirmed cases. Well, let's go to our Muslim COVID-19 statistics. And again, Gauteng continues to be amongst the highest numbers of COVID-19 cases. 37 new deaths were recorded, with Gauteng accounting for 25 of them. Well, let's go to our newspapers, and we do start off with The Citizen. And there's only one place they're going to be starting at, and that is, of course, the looting that is currently happening in our country. Luta continua, a nice play on words right over there, just showing the SC and the F with a potential looter at that place there, and just showing, the visuals speak for themselves how difficult the time is right now for South Africa. Then going full tilt, South African A side is set to face the British and Irish Lions later on tonight. A huge game there ahead of the first test happening against the Springboks. On the left-hand side, WADEE is focused on eye-opener. Wow, this is a huge one, of course. We are preparing for the big CAF Champions League match that is going to be taking place with regards to Kaizer Chiefs against Al Ahly. That is going to be happening in Morocco this coming weekend. On the right-hand side, an article on Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford, of course, was subject to racial abuse. Unfortunately, this is a recurring thing that is happening in Europe after England's loss against Italy, with the Azzurri winning the 2020 European Championships. Him, along with Jadon Sancho and Bukayo Saka, were racially abused by fans after all three missed penalties during their penalty shootout match at Wembley Stadium against Italy. Well, that's all we have for you here on the Daily Factor. And to close it off, we again just beg the citizens to please be safe. Food shortages are currently something that's going to be happening in South Africa. So stock up while you can. Just stay in your homes while you can. And just we must continue to pray for a resolution right here in South Africa. I don't know whether our leaders are up to it, unfortunately. That's the thing. We don't know whether we currently have the right leadership in this country to get us out of this quagmire. But we hope that the ordinary citizen, we hear of the stories of so many who are taking a stand against the looters and are calling for accountability, to go ahead and just make their mark in this country of ours. It's a beautiful country. We just hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel for us here in South Africa. That's all we have for you here on the Daily Factor. I'd like to thank our production team, Johnny, Tony, Jesse, Alan. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay safe, inshallah, God willing. I will see you again tomorrow from 3:30 to 4:30 here on the Daily Factor. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.